Okay, last one. I'm going to have to scramble through it, so just hold on to your hats and don't get discouraged because the actual final answer won't be so bad. Now, notice what I did in part C. I gave you two complex solutions, 2 minus 7i and 2 plus 7i. They are conjugates of each other, right? And when you have conjugate solutions to a quadratic equation, and you go back and you find the quadratic equation that has those as solutions, you can be guaranteed that when you multiply things out, the i's will go away. Anything with I in it will go away. If it doesn't, you did something wrong. Okay? So the associated solutions, or the associated factors, I should say, with, let's start with 2 minus 7i. You would take x and subtract it off, but you got to use parentheses around, whoops. You got to use parentheses around the 2 minus 7i when you subtract it off. So notice that's the same way I got the associated factor with radical 2, right? In the last example, you take x and subtract off radical 2. Here, I'm taking x and subtracting off the quantity 2 minus 7i. And then same thing for the factor associated with 2 plus 7i. I'm going to take x and subtract it off, 2 plus 7i, as an entire quantity. So put it in parentheses, equals 0. It really is the same method, it just looks uglier. Okay, now I'm going to FOIL things out. And I'm not going to simplify, I'm just going to write down the multiplication. I multiply the first together, as usual, you would get x squared. I'm going to multiply the outer together, and I'm just going to write down the multiplication. It's multiplication over subtraction. So I'm going to write down a minus x times that quantity 2 plus 7i. Notice I didn't distribute the x yet. I'm kind of doing this intermediate step to keep it neat and clean. And then the inner, I'm going to distribute this, well, including the minus, right? I'm going to distribute, think of it as distributing this x to the minus quantity 2 minus 7i. And you get minus x times 2 minus 7i for the inner multiplication. This is the FOIL method, guys, because I'm thinking of those quantities as single numbers. 2 minus 7i is a single number, and 2 plus 7i is a single number in that factorization. And then the last multiplication, I'm going to take the minus 2 minus 7i and multiply it, distribute it over the minus 2 plus 7i. And what does the operation become? Plus, because minus here, and then it's just writing the multiplication down, 2 minus 7i times the quantity 2 plus 7i. So even though it looks super ugly, I realize that it really is just the FOIL method. And I'm really just writing down the multiplications from the FOIL method. Okay? Now it's the next step where I'm going to distribute everything out, and all the i's will disappear. So I distribute out the minus, well, after we simplify, all the i's will disappear. I distribute out the minus x, and I get minus 2x minus 7ix for that first guy, and then distribute out the minus x here, and I get minus 2x plus 7ix. And then I multiply the two conjugates together. Do I have to worry about the outer and inner terms when I multiply conjugates? Nope, just multiply the 2 over the 2, and the minus, and the last term, that's the first terms together, 2 times 2, and then the last terms from the FOIL method, minus 7i distributed over a plus 7i, and I get 4 from the first multiplication, and then I get minus 7i squared from the last multiplication. So just give me an extra couple of seconds here, and look at what's going to happen. Okay, we have x squared. We have minus 2x and a minus 2x. What do those make? Minus 4x. We have a minus 7ix and a plus 7ix. That makes 0. We have a plus 4 and minus 7i squared. I squared is really what? Negative 1. So minus 7 times negative 1 is really? So plus 7, right? And then what do we get on the end then? Oh, I should have had a 49 there, right? Yeah, I made an error. I was in a hurry. So that should have been minus 49i squared. And so that would be what? Right here, plus 49. Well, okay, you're getting ahead of me. And then 4 plus 49 is 53. So we get x squared minus 4x plus 53 equals 0. Look at how that cleaned up. Now, if you applied the quadratic formula to that, if you want to check your answer, apply the quadratic formula to that, and guess what? You should get 2 plus or minus 7i as your answers. Thanks for sticking around an extra minute.